Hi guys, welcome back to the shop. Hey, apologize, it's been a couple weeks since I did a video. Had some surgery done and everything was going along pretty good, and all of a sudden it got infected and I had to go back into the hospital for about 3 days. So it's been a little bit more than what I bargained for, but I think I'm on the mend now. I'm feeling like getting out in the shop once in a while, doing a little at a time. And what we're going to work on today is a crankshaft for TS185 Suzuki. I know I've harped on this before about pullers, the dimples in your crankshaft so you can realign them when you take them apart. But I'm gonna go over it again, and it's just getting harder and harder to find good crankshafts. And there's a lot more to look for than what you think. And I'm going to go over those things again, and we're gonna try to make one of these work. I had a customer send in. First, he sent me the original crank, and I'll show you what happened to the end of it from the puller. And then he sent me another one, and it's got good ends in it, but it's got a seal. Where the seal runs is not all that great. We may be able to salvage it. That'll be the first thing that we do, or we attempt anyway. So let me get you overhead and we'll take a peek at what I got here. Okay, got a couple of cranks here. This is the original one that he sent me, and you can see the end here. This is the replacement one, and you can tell that the dimple is all there. This one here has been wallered out and pushed in and pushed out. You can see that it's flared the end of the crankshaft here. Yes, you can still set these up between V-blocks, but I think my point is, why should you have to? I just feel I do a better job between centers on the lathe, and this here, you'll be off, who knows, 25, 30 thousandths easy before you even start. Now the other side looks good. See, that these dimples is how they created the flywheel or the crankshaft. They created each one. If you look on the inside of each half, you're going to see another dimple just like that. And that's how they machine the whole thing, from threads to the shaft to the half itself. Everything is created from those dimples. They set up like a solid piece of metal in between those two dimples, and that's what they end up with at the end is this crankshaft. So that is the best way, in my opinion. I'm sure there's people that will differ their thoughts on that. And like I say, you can do it on a set of V-blocks as long as they're a knife edge type V-block. But the optimum way is to use what they started with. Now, there's a lot of things to look for when you're looking for a crankshaft. Number one, I always look for the dimples. Sometimes, if you're on eBay or something, if they're messed up, they don't show them. So you've got to ask. This one's good. The next thing you want to do is make sure your threads are good. Both ends. Not messed up, not bent, not flared out, none of this stuff. Now the next thing you want to do is make sure that where your seal runs right here is no rust, no excessive wear. And this one looks good. Now this is the original one. Now I get the replacement that he sent me. The ends look good. The threads look good. But the seal area, not so good. And when we're dealing with two strokes, you know the seal is very important. Very important. Another thing you need to look for is a broken out, chipped out, wallered out key. Make sure everything is good. Really about the least of the thing that you want to look for is whatever's right here, because 9 times out of 10 you're replacing that anyway. You know, in this one here, you know, just by feel, I'd say it's probably okay to run, except for the top is all rusted. You see a lot of rust in there. Now his original one, again, I think it's probably okay, and he's got a good top end. But the whole thing is he rides this a lot, and he wants it rebuilt, and you can't fault man for that. He wants trouble-free operation, and that's what you need. You need, you know, he puts a lot of miles on this bike, had it since it was new, I believe, and you know, he wants it to be reliable so he can go riding, go wherever he needs to go, and not have to worry about pushing it back or getting a ride for it. So one thing we need to do here is, well, before I do that, let's go over these pullers. I've got a box full of pullers right here. These are all for motorcycles, and you can see that on the end of these there's a flat. There's a little dimple right here that will go into that, but actually what this is pulling against is the flat. The outside part, it's contacting right here. It's not even going in here. I mean, that little dimple is, but it's not touching the diameter of that. Now, if you look at this, every puller in here is designed like that. That's so you don't damage those dimples. Now, I got just a couple more here. These are a couple of my more popular ones that I use all the time. Same deal here. This doesn't even have the dimple. It's just hitting right on the flat surface here. That's it. So that's the first thing you want to look for when you're looking for a puller. Now, I realize that on a lot of these Suzukis, it uses a 3-legged puller, and you know, I made my own to pull these. I just made it with a bolt, and I made it the same way as those pullers are, so it actually touches the outside diameter right here and not the inside of the dimple. So now this is the kind of puller that is just it's going to create this. It's going to tear it up. You're going to push, that's all that is that's wallered and just turned and turned and turned into that crankshaft. Some of these pull off very hard. If they're pulling off extremely hard, you need to look for a problem. You may need to heat it. You may need to back up and attempt something else. A lot of times, if they're really bad and you have no other choice, is what I do is I find a ball. See, this here, not going to do much good here now. But on this one, you put your ball in there, and then you put a nut on like this. Then you can use that type of puller, if that's what you got, because it's going to tear the nut up. These are just magnets I use to hold all this together with. But this And another good thing you can do is once you get this together like this, put a lot of grease right here where this goes into that. And that'll eliminate a lot of the just digging and wallering. And hopefully you can get that off without any damage. But you know, you can pick up a ball. I think that's a 5/16 one. I use 5/16 and quarter the most. And that's the two sizes. So it just, you know, you want to put the biggest one in there that you can. And the idea is that you're pushing against the ball and it's pushing way out here. You're pushing against the ball and not twisting or turning on it. You're doing all the twisting and turning on the nut that you put on it on the outside, out there. And it can be a challenge to get all that done. But, you know, the right thing to do is to try to not damage anything while you're trying to maintain your motorcycle. So I've covered this before and I just thought I'd go over it again. They're just getting so hard to find. You know, it'll get to the point where if you need to get a replacement crankshaft, they're just going to cost so much that you just can't afford them. So keep the price down, protect your own parts, and rebuild your own parts, and cause no damage to your parts. Okay, the next thing we need to look for here is our dimension. This will be our assembled width. We need to be pretty close to that on the way back in. So I've made a note of 56.03 and at approximately 180 degrees. .5616. Okay, so I'm satisfied these are probably supposed to be set up around 56 millimeters. But anyhow, you want to check to what it is now so that you can make sure that it goes back into the case. Now I've checked both of these and they're both very similar. One is 5607 and the other one is 5604 at the pin. So they're very close. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, we know this one here's got a very nice seal surface, but the end of it is no good. So the first thing I need to do is set this up in the lathe, and we'll take some crocus and see if we can clean this seal area up. You know, we've got another bearing that goes here, and the seal area should be right here. I don't have a seal with me, so I don't know exactly where that runs, but I see a little bit of rust or something in between there, so we'll just set it up there and see if we can clean that up. Okay, on this original crank, I can see better where the seal goes. Or I think I can anyway. Looks like right about here to right about there. So I'm going to just take a measurement from the key to where I think it begins, and it looks like about 1620. Make a note of that, and then go on out to the inside, and it looks like about 20 millimeters. So let's look at this one using the same, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's put it in the lathe, see if we can clean it up a little bit and see if looks like we'll get a good seal on that. Okay, remember our seal area is right about here. So we'll just try a little sandpaper here to help get that cleaned up, hopefully. Looks like it might be doing pretty good. Okay, we can still see some pitting back here, but I think here is where our seal runs. So let me grab my caliper again. Yeah, 16 to 20. Yeah, I think we're going to be okay. I'm going to hit it with a little bit more and a little bit finer. I think we're going to luck out on this one. Yeah, I think we're good. This pitting is towards the bearing. There's another bearing that goes right here. So it goes this way. So I think we're good. You can kind of see the split because that's a split seal, two-lip seal. So part of it's going to run over here and part of it's going to run over here. So I think we're good. Lucky. And we want to make sure our threads are good. Okay, it's 150. And I think it's 14 millimeter. Yeah, 14 millimeter, 1.50 pitch. So we'll just make sure that the threads are in good order there. And they are. Wonderful. Okay, and then to check our other side, we are also 1.50 pitch and 18 millimeters. So I've got my die. We'll just see if it goes on there good, and it does. Perfect. So I think we're in good shape. All we need to do is get it apart now. Now these can be kind of a chore. You know, I know a lot of you have seen the special little tools that'll go in. Well, this has got a spacer on it right here. Well, wait a minute, maybe that'll come off. It will. Okay. Let me regroup here. Okay, that spacer comes off there. Usually I think that's more of a retainer end spacer. Seems to me like, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but seems to me like those are usually press fit. But that one just come right off there. Yeah. No press fit to that. This one here is not just coming off. See if I can gently get it to move here. Yeah, okay. So that's just a spacer, nothing more, nothing less. All right. So still, as I was saying, there's some of these special little tools that can go up into the bearing, and I don't believe any of mine will do that. This is the smallest one I've got, and you can get it in there, but you've got to get it in and then twist it in order to pull that off. Usually what I do, we don't want to damage this slinger, because those are getting hard to find, and normally what I end up either doing is I'll weld on a couple of pieces of rod or key stock right here, and then just something that I can get my puller behind, and then we'll go ahead and hook up the puller onto it. But this is not going to work, and there is not room to get behind it without crushing the slinger. Like I say, we want to maintain that slinger because we want to use it again. Last I looked on these bikes, you can't get those anymore, so they're going to be new old stock or something like that off of eBay, which I'm sure they're there, but the bottom line is we just don't want to tear up something to get something apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish covering up everything on here that weld will damage. And I've got some key stock that will just cut off a piece on each side and weld it right here to the front of the bearing. The bearing is going to be replaced, and he's sent one with it. So we'll cut a couple pieces, we'll weld those on, and then we'll pull it off. So we'll just take a little brake clean here and clean our bearing. Kind of the front of it is where I'm going to try to get it tacked on. And here's just a couple pieces of key stock that we'll weld onto each side of it, so we'll have something to grip with the puller. Okay, in this situation I just split a piece of 3/4 hose. I wished I had some inch, but I don't. So I'll be taping all this up to protect it from weld splatter. And I'll cut another piece for the other side here. You know, there's any number of ways to cover it up. Just do whatever it takes to do it, because you don't want to damage it with weld splatter. And I'll do the same thing here. Just some good old duct tape. So there we have it. Everything that could be damaged, covered up, because you never know where those sparks are going to fly. The masking tape is actually okay, because the little BBs that fly out of there, they'll just be deflected down. Even if it does burn through a little bit, it's not going to stick. But we're just going to try to get this tacked on both sides here, and then we can use our regular puller to pull that bearing. If we need to, we can apply a little heat. Okay, I just got it held here with a magnet. I'm going to try to tack the front first, and then once that's tacked on, then I think I can get behind it and get a weld on the back side too. Maybe both ends. Won't be able to get much on the back side. I'm probably going to have to get it on the ends. But right now, we're going to try to get it right there. Okay, here's what we ended up with. Just got a little weld on the outside of each one here. And so far, looks like everything survived. So now we've just got to see if we can get the bearing pulled off. I'm just going to try a little bearing splitter here, just that I can get behind it on both sides. And we'll get that all fastened up. Okay, this is what I've come up with. And we'll go ahead and see if it'll come off there. Oh yeah, easy peasy. So we saved our slinger, and you can see here we've got a shim right here. We'll see what we have behind the slinger. Probably going to have to get a chisel and start that. Okay, on these, you've got a little pin that goes in here and here. You just kind of get behind that and very easily. You don't want to cut it, you just want to try to pry it out. And there we go. So nothing behind it. We just got the shim in front. And we saved our slinger. All right. Here's what we ended up with on our bearing. And like I say, we just caught the back side with our bearing separator. Like that. And then put our two studs in and use the puller to pull it. And again, this is flat around the edge so we don't damage the hole. Okay, you want to pay attention to your hole on this side. That's where your slinger goes in. And remember, on these Suzukis, you're forcing oil into there. And when we get this taken apart, you'll be able to see that there's a hole, and it's pretty much should be oriented up. It may be a little bit off to one side or the other, but for the most part, it'll be up. I just want to say that sometimes you can get your bearing separator into this groove, without damaging the slinger, but it didn't look like I was going to be able to do it. So that's why I went ahead and welded these pieces onto the outside. The bearing's being replaced anyway, and it's just peace of mind for me. You may, if you've got a thinner one, you may be able to get it in there and not have an issue. But I wasn't sure that I could. I'm doing this for somebody else, so I just err on the side of making sure I don't tear something up. Okay, we're over to the press. I think I've got everything lined up here. Let's see if we can get this thing to pop out. Make sure to grab it underneath. Okay, we'll go on back up to the, well, let's see here. Let me pull you out so you can see. Okay, we've got our thrust washer here. And on this side, got a rod and the bearing. You see, there's your oil hole. Just a little bit forward and to the top. We've got quite a bit of wear there, it looks like. Let me go ahead and we'll pop the pin. Okay, let's go ahead and remove the pin. All right, guys, got it all tore apart. Looks like all our components are the same. They're built a little different, but they're the same. You can see here you've got just an oil hole here, and then your split, where this one here is built with several more oil holes and a split. And we're looking at 1698. $17 should be all right. 17. A little more, 1710 should be good. A little bit's not going to make any difference. Those look right. This is actually looks more like an aftermarket. It was in a Suzuki wrapper, but it doesn't have the S on it like this one does. The color and everything looks more like a Pro X, but the numbers are not the same. $2102. This one's kind of rusty. Yeah, okay. .806. .803, okay. .1572. .1572. 22 millimeter. 22 millimeter. We've got hole in one end, not the other. And we have our oil hole right here. Same as we did on this one. And our thrust washers. So it looks to me like I've just got some cleaning up to do, and we can go back and put it back together. Should be just straightforward. Okay guys, thanks a lot. Don't forget to thumbs up, please. Okay guys, there you have it. Disassembly of the TS185 Suzuki crankshaft. Looks like all our parts are compatible. We just need to get in there and clean things up. Like I said, on these crankshafts, look them over real good if you're buying another one. Because if you've got one that has got the sealing area just rougher than a cob on it, it's never going to seal. You're never going to have a good running, good starting engine. And it'll just wipe your seal out real quick. So make sure that you look over both sides on the threads, both sides on the holes. Make sure they haven't been molested and just worn plumb out with a puller. That, like I say, if you've got one of those nose type pullers like this, you really don't want to use that because it's just going to spread that out. If the flywheel comes off easy, it's not a problem, but a lot of them won't because they've been on there so long. And you've got to do what you got to do, but try to take care of those holes on the ends because that's critical to setting them back up. So although it can be done without using holes, and a lot of people do use just a V-block, knife edge V-block, and it works just fine. But I prefer to do it on the holes that the factory put in. I always get better results that way, much easier to set up, and yeah, it makes it easy on me. That's the key. So anyhow, it's good to be back. I don't know whether I'll be putting out 2 a week, but maybe I can go ahead and get 1 a week. I've got a lot of projects going, a lot of them in the work, and we'll just kind of go with the flow and see how I feel for the next couple of weeks. Getting better every day, so I don't think that it's going to be anything long lasting. So, hey, thanks for going along on the ride. See you next video.